wanted to, of course, we know Bummer, we know Muskaan, and we also know Punita. So just wanted to start with you, Sulay. I remember on Shark Tank, you really came onto the platform and you said, I'm going to be super confident about whatever questions you ask me. And I remember Aman going all ham on you with a lot of questions. So just wanted to understand, how did you tackle that? And what were your learnings from this entire experience that you had at Shark Tank? And how has that also, of course, helped you in your journey further, post the episode?
So yeah, I mean, the idea obviously was to go in with a lot of confidence because I know there's no retakes on Shark Tank. There's no it's one single flow of us doing practically everything in a 45-minute to a 1-hour span. Aman really started hammering with a lot of weird questions, or I would say questions that I probably found very difficult to answer at the time. But that was the easier part of it all. If anyone has seen Shark Tank or has seen the Bummer episode, I think the real weird or the rift that happened was with Ashneer, and I think that's what really threw me off my game, and that's probably where I lost a large part of the motivation to, okay, now what do I have to say next? But beyond that, I think it was phenomenal. I think the success metric, of course, is the fact that they still gave us a deal. It happened, it closed out and everything. So that was great. And I think beyond that, right, I think the experience has been phenomenal. There's great brand visibility beyond anything, more than the capital, more than the funding. It's great brand visibility. And I think very, very important thing that we probably in season 1 did not know, how we could ride the wave of virality in that 3-4 months. So I think that's probably something that I'm sure has improved with time for other folks who've been on Shark Tank.
Right.
Yeah.
And what is that one advice you'd probably give for people who aspire to be on the show? Maybe one tangible tip of preparation before they get onto the show?
Yeah. So for us, the whole Doglapan thing was very unintentional, right? It just happened in the moment. Usne bol diya and it just became like a thing. But I would say if anyone is going on Shark Tank now, should probably try intentionally plan a Doglapan moment. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what virality, where virality comes from, right? So that's what I would say.
Absolutely, very well said. And Muskaan, just coming to you, I remember you brought a big tray of different snacks for the show. I was really hoping we'd have that today as well. But jokes apart, just wanted to understand a little bit about your journey on Shark Tank. Because, the kind of business that you are in, it brings about a sense of nostalgia, right? That's when Paperboat had come up with this idea, and I think you guys have really done it well. So just wanted to understand what was the inspiration behind starting such a business. And of course, having Piyush Bansal on your cap table must be quite a wonder considering he's built such a great business. So if you can just throw some light and some insights on your journey at Shark Tank and after as well.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll break that question into 3 parts: Shark Tank experience, inspiration behind starting State Plate, and having Piyush on board. So, yeah, I think experience on Shark Tank was fantastic. I think Sulay very rightly pointed out the main thing about Shark Tank is the brand visibility that it gives you beyond anything else. For D2C brand, I think it's so important to solve for that first awareness stage. But I think Shark Tank, post Shark Tank, I feel 30-40% of your job is done. So that's a lot to say because it takes a lot of money, a lot of effort, and a lot of years typically to get to that stage, which I think Shark Tank does really well for a lot of D2C brands. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits. And even when I talk to people who are going to Shark Tank for season 3 and so on, one of the biggest things I say is think about this less as a fundraising platform, because I think getting access to angel investors and fundraising is still fairly possible in the ecosystem, but try to see how you can maximize this from a brand visibility, TRP point of view. How can you be as possibly creative as possible? So Hugh had this moment where it was raining underwear, Like, I still remember that scene. And then there was season 1, there was this beyond snack moment where he tears his t-shirt. And I think like those are the moments that um, from ads to it's everywhere. So I think to create moments like that is what you should try to aspire to in your Shark Tank journey. Um, in terms of, I think for us, one of our biggest fear before entering the tank was also Ashneer. Just before our shoot, there was this other, there was this folk, this bunch of, so they had a gym. They were not aired, but some of them came out crying because of the way Ashneer roasted them, like literal tears. And I was scared for my life because I was like, Baki sab theek hai, but if Ashneer starts roasting us, then how are we going to deal with it? So I think my biggest thing was also that as long as that doesn't happen, I think I'm good. I'll deal with everything else. And fortunately, that worked out for us. So it was good. And I think, yeah, outcome of getting a deal from Piyush was also positive. And it's been great for us ever since.
Great. Thank you. Punita, coming to you, right? Like, I remember on the episode of Shark Tank, you sort of mentioned baggage as a metaphor for, like, of course, that's in relation to the current business that you're running and the kind of stressful event that you would have on a Shark Tank, right, with all the judges sitting there. So just from your perspective, maybe if you can throw some light on your learnings, that you had on Shark Tank. And what is it that you'd advise folks who are not only being on Shark Tank, but are looking to, like, raise, money through a VC today? What is that little advice in the tangible aspects of the business you'd probably tell them to focus on?
Sure. So I think from when we went to Shark Tank, we were much younger than maybe State Plate or even Bummers. We were just 4 months into operations, and it was just done on a whim because we thought if not now, then never. So our biggest learning, and I think it was a conscious choice, and it worked out for us, was since we were literally at a stage where we were problem product fit, very far from PMF. Our biggest learning was to stay extremely honest about what we are building, because we knew that, especially in the space that we are building a category creator. Our intention was to be very honest about things we've done, things we know, and things we don't know. Because the last thing that you want to appear in front of sharks, and less so on television, on national television, is fake or presumptuous about anything, anything especially related to mental health. So we were very, very transparent in how we were building it. And what we were going for, like, obviously everybody goes for PR and that marketing thing, but for us it was a big, I think it was a big winner in terms of earning trust. When you're building a category creator, the two things you need to really focus on is one, trust, and the other is the right narrative. So we were like, oh, you're getting a platform to be able to do that. So let's build a narrative that people understand. And because of the virtue of being on Shark Tank, hopefully we'll win the trust once we get a deal. And that happened. So that was great. Now, in terms of just, I think, again, since like the second part of your question in terms of VC and what people should watch out for, again, I can only give my point of view. Because you're building in mental health being a relatively, not a very mature market in India, when you're building in a difficult space, health tech is right there. And within health tech, mental health is, the mother of how difficult it can get. So I think the way we look at it is that VCs need to be, the first filter is for VCs to be very aligned with how mental health works as a space. It's not something that is good to have as a product. People will not just try it because it seems intriguing. It's not something that will fly off the shelves. So it's a slow burn, long runway kind of thing. So you need to have that kind of patience and that long-term vision in building it. So you'll be looking always, I think the biggest learning for us has been to go for those kind of partnerships where we can build that kind of long-term view.
Absolutely. And I totally understand when you mean to say, you are in a space where, of course, it can get really tough, because even though we are a population of 1.6 billion people, right? I think mental health has only now evolved, and awareness has only now evolved, I would say maybe in the last 3-4 years. post-COVID especially, where people are taking it seriously. But even today, I'd say like maybe in tier 3, tier 4 cities, even though everyone is going through something, they're not open to talk about it. So just from that perspective, I just wanted to understand what are your strategies to acquire a customer and then bring them onto your platform so that you can provide these mental health services. So I'm sure it's a lot to do with education, it's a lot to do with awareness. So if you can just probably, and also touch upon, is it only a referral network, or are you also using, acquisition strategies like through Meta and other tools as well?
We're completely organically built, so not gone with paid at all. And it's a function of two things. It's a function of where we are as a company, and it's also a function of the space that we operate in. Again, mental health is not something that you want to see maybe when you are browsing Facebook or Instagram. You might see it, you might enjoy it, you can be frivolous about it and maybe engage with it, but you will probably not go for the product easily. That's one. So we're not at a stage where we want to invest in paid marketing. We are completely organically built. But in terms of acquisition, I think the two things that have worked very, very well for us are, first is word of mouth is our, like 60% of what we get is word of mouth, which is great because that shows trust in our brand. We have people who've seen us, have not used us, but are recommending what we are building. Also building a very low stigma product. So I don't know if people here know what we're really building is like a LinkedIn for mental health, where you don't need to, where you can learn from other people's journeys, and from there go on to maybe engage with higher stake products. So we are trying to also build it in a very low stigma, highly social way. That's second. And the third is the network effect is definitely playing out. We are seeing people who come to SoulUp, engage, become a part of the network, then become even users. And then users who then formally become part of the network. So it's literally, instead of a demand and supply, it's becoming like a one-sided network, which is what like all of us are on LinkedIn. You are the supply and you are the demand. You are the same thing. So it's kind of shaping up to be that.
And just from a business standpoint, I suppose, is it subscription-based or is it per, sort of usage-based? So if I were to have a peer-to-peer interaction, would I be charged for that one particular session I've had, or would there be like a monthly recurring package as well?
It's a mix. You can go for one. You can take a subscription. We also have long-running support groups. And within peer-to-peer, many formats are possible. We also have accountability groups. Okay. So if I'm accountable for maybe substance addiction is one of the accountability groups that runs really well. So that's like a long-running game. So it depends on the product, and within each product we offer both
so just one question on that, I mean, today therapy, like people are much more aware and they want to go for therapy. And you have a lot of therapists who charge you like copious amounts of money in order to do one session. So just wanted to know from your perspective, how are you being able to compete well with the therapists, or are you even competing with them? Or is there like a distinction in the two?
No, we're not competing with therapists at all. And it would be unfair to say that we don't have therapists. You can't build a mental health solution by completely ignoring a very strong and important stakeholder. Absolutely. So the idea is to build it like a complete ecosystem. However, we also realize that a lot of people in India either don't understand if they have a problem. A lot of people, if they think they have a problem, don't know what to do about it. So it's both, there's support that you need, and there's also intelligence that you need. How can I approach it? And that being said, mental health is not mental illness. Mental health is just everything. Like I have mental health. It could be good, I could be thriving, or it could be poor. So I think this is not a competition at all. A lot of people talk to peers and realize, the peer is in therapy. Maybe I'll also take therapy. So then they engage with the therapist component on SoulUp.
Domino effect, I'd say. Muskaan, just coming to you, wanted to understand from you, right? I mean, I think you've tapped into almost all the states in this country, right? So how is that working out for you? Is there any distinction between tier 2, tier 3 cities today? And your strategies on customer acquisition, does it differ in all the states, or is it similar? And what are the kind of strategies are you adopting to acquire a new customer through India?
Yeah. So I think from a state point of view, so for us, there are states that we get products from, and then there are states that we sell products to. So our customers are primarily come from metro cities. So your Bangalore, Bombay, Gurgaon, Chennai, Delhi, NCR side. Where we procure from some of our top states, which was also a process of discovery for us to kind of figure out that these are the states where some of these products are literally like flying off the shelves. People are really enjoying. So I think some of our top performing states like that are West Bengal, Maharashtra, and Gujarat, and then Karnataka. So essentially, like, products from those states are purchased the most often. In terms of acquisition, I think one emotion that for us we try to play upon a lot is nostalgia, because the brand runs on, like, when you even spoke about paper boat, right? That emotion of, you know, childhood memories and what reminds you of comfort and what reminds you of home. So a lot of content that we build, the creatives that we have, our acquisition anywhere for that matter, packaging also for that matter, we try to evoke a sense of that. In terms of how we acquire, I think when we started StatePlate, we are also a COVID baby, so we started in like mid 2020. I think that was a point of time when Meta ads was really working really well for people. So ROAS was off the roof, and I think people were making a lot of money. So we also saw that journey where we scaled up very well through Facebook and Instagram ads. But then I think then there also came a point where ads became so hyper competitive that then ROAS went from there to here, and then everybody was like, okay, now what do we do? Because अब Facebook नहीं चल रहा, तो we'll have to figure out different, more unique ways of, I think, acquiring people. So then started to focus more on content, started to focus more on omni-channel. I think for us, being an F&B brand, beyond a point, it's pretty difficult to scale up online, because food may logistics cost as a part of our unit economics is always much higher than what it is for other categories like, say, fashion or personal care. So I think for us, up next, we're trying to do offline in a bigger way, trying to expand offline so that the pricing can be a lot more competitive and we can scale up and acquire more customers through that route. But yeah, let's see how it goes.
So, you know, there's a lot thrown about CAC versus CLTV ratio, right? So in your case, what are the strategies that you are adopting in order to make sure that there is a repeat purchase, right? We spoke a lot on the acquisition part, but maybe on the retention part, if you can just throw some light and some insights on that as well.
Correct. I think, again, food is a category which is essentially a high repeat category because it's a low ticket size purchase. So for us, repeats are that much more important. If our repeats are not good, then it just wouldn't make sense for us at all. I think number one thing that I think this is like one of those answers, but I think to have a high repeat, the main thing is to get your product right. If you're offering genuine value to customers in terms of good quality, good service, then I feel like that compounding effect will happen and long run repeats will follow. But besides that, obviously there are a lot of active things that we keep doing for better retention. There are a bunch of tools. So social media is one, email marketing is one thing that we do pretty extensively actually. Besides, I think trying to track cohorts, although that is, we're not doing that as aggressively as we probably want to be doing, but trying to figure out what percentage of our customers have purchased once, twice versus 5 times, 10 times, trying to find different ways of targeting them, trying to stay more actively and connect with with our power users, trying to personally connect with them once a quarter or once a month to figure out what's working and how do we kind of get this first time user into that power user cohort. I think, yeah, those are a few things that we're doing, but definitely long way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Super insightful. Sulay, just coming to you, you know, I think you are in a category that sort of caters to both genders today. And it must be really interesting to see, like, firstly, like, where do you see the most traction from? Is it women or men? I'm asking this because, you know, a lot of these businesses today, especially when it comes to men's innerwear, at least the last 2 seasons, at least from what all that I'm reading, has not done that well. So I just wanted to know, what are the strategies that you're adopting for you to, of course, you know, cater to both of these genders, and what is exactly that's working for you tangibly, if you can just like throw some insights on that as well.
Yeah. So I think that's a great question for a category like ours, because if you look at folks in our category, say, for example, a jockey today, as a matter of fact, right? Even though jockey has always made men's and women's underwear both, the large part of the category perception and the brand perception is that jockey is a men's underwear brand. Most people think of jockey that way today. You look at, for example, a Marks and Spencer as a brand. Very, very affluent in the women's category, not so much in the men's category. So I think brands generally have been leaning towards a certain sort of a gender, regardless of them being very neutral in their approach. For us, I think there's one very clear outlier that really works well for us to appeal to both genders, which is our matching underwear sort of section. Essentially, what happens is consumers go to our website, couples, partners, husbands, wives can essentially match their underwear to each other, right? And so because of that, we've seen almost about a 50-50 split between men and women as our consumers, and I think that's great. We see very different consumer behavior from them after they've bought a matching underwear, but that's like the first entry point into the brand. So yeah, I think we'll continue doing that, right? Because I think there's some part of it that's working well for us, helping acquire both sets of the consumer, but also in the long run, not get trapped into a perception that, hey, Bummer is a men's brand, a men's underwear brand, or a women's underwear. Have a very sort of both gender equal approach is what we aim for. What happens in 5 years, we don't know, but at least we'll try that doesn't happen. So yeah.
No, absolutely. Some really interesting points there. You know, I wanted to leave some time for the questions from the audience. So maybe just to wrap up, just a last question. Who was your favorite Shark Tank, and what do you think the element of their business is interesting, and that's why this is your favorite Shark Tank? Maybe we can start with you. Favorite shark and the element of business that you really enjoy.
I mean, my favorite shark was actually not part of the panel that we pitched to, unfortunately, but my favorite shark is Piyush. Just like him because he's very, very impact driven, supports tech. I'm a data scientist by as such in my pre-SoulUp life. So I really like people who understand and appreciate tech. So yeah, it was Piyush, and it was just unfortunate we couldn't pitch to him.
Okay. Muskaan?
So I think we were hoping to get a deal from either Aman or Piyush, and fortunately it worked out with Piyush in our case. And right after our episode, there was this YouTube live that Tanmay Bhatt did, where Aman and Namita were on that show, and he asked them what brand they regret not investing in on the show, and Aman said State Plate. So it kind of, yeah, it was coincidental but nice that we had these guys in mind. There was no targeted approach, but like both of them ended up like partner. Not, I mean, Aman didn't, but that was just a funny story. But Piyush did, so yeah.
Okay, great. Sulay, what about you?
So for me, it's definitely Aman. I think we have a great relationship with her. And on the same show that she's actually talking about with Tanmay, and they actually asked him, Tanmay actually asked Aman what was his favorite investment from Shark Tank, and Aman said कि life में लोगों को चड्डी की बहुत बड़ी problem है, and that's indirectly sort of obviously implied us at that point. But have a great relationship with him. He's been very, very supportive. Sorry, what was the second part of your question though?
Which element of their business do you really think is strong or that you enjoy personally?
I definitely think with both, like they've done a phenomenal job with community, right? Like, so I think their angle of building a community around music and music lovers and the boat heads community is what they essentially call it. I think that's probably one thing that I would be my biggest takeaway from the way he's built the business.
Amazing. We're really looking forward to see how the next decade pans out for all of you. I think it's going to be absolutely interesting. And it's really like a privilege to sit with people who are focusing on the new India that we're going to be in, right, in the next 10 years. So just before we wrap, just in case there are any couple of questions from the audience, would love to hear some. Maybe if you can just pass the mic to the gentleman here.
Hello all, my name is Bandu Pawar, founder of Jagwonder, India's purest jaggery maker. And I have a question to Muskaan and Sulay. Till date, how many customers you have acquired through online promotion? Till date. How many customers you have acquired?
The number of customers.
Number of customers कितने acquire किए आपने? Online promotion के द्वारा.
What is the active user base you have essentially?
A couple lakhs, a couple double-digit lakhs.
Okay. Because I started promotion in June. Till date, I have more than 15,000 customers. So, मुझे ये पता करना है कि 1 लाख के बाद saturation आएगा, 2 लाख के बाद आएगा. उसके लिए मैं पूछ रहा था. So, Sulay, what is your numbers?
So for us, it's roughly about 500,000 customers, about 5 lakh odd customers that we've acquired so far. Saturation, I would assume that it depends from, or I would rather tell you that it depends from category to category and how large of a category you are going after and how large part of that, the category could be huge, but what percentage of that category also even exists in the digital ecosystem, right? So that's probably a question that you can answer for yourself. But I definitely don't think that given the kind of large economy that India already is and of course rapid, I mean, I've seen the weirdest of things get sold online in insane amounts of volume. So I definitely don't think that for the first couple of million customers, there is saturation for large part of the products.
Okay, because
you said it's a jaggery brand?
Jaggery, India's purest jaggery maker.
Jaggery,
गुड़ जो खाते हैं उसका chocolate form में और crush form में हम बेचते हैं. We have got 225 franchise partners across India.
Yeah, I think there might be saturation on a certain channel after a while, but then you can always open up other channels and then keep scaling up on the go according to how your business is going. But maybe
5-10 लाख customer acquire करने तक तो saturation नहीं आएगा, इतना तो समझ में आया. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think we had one more question from the front.
My question is to all three, or can any one of you can sort of answer it. How do you guys think about building a community? Because if you're building a consumer brand, that's a very important part of scaling the business and scaling the brand. So how do you think about community building and how do you actually go about building it as well, right? What are the series of steps or actions do you implement at a everyday level or a weekly level or a monthly level to see that thing coming into life?
Maybe we can have 2 pointers from each one of you. I think that would be interesting. Punita, you want to go first?
So our product is entirely community-led. There is nothing but community, so I can at least pitch in from our perspective. I think the essence of building community is to not, at least initially, to not expect that the community will yield revenue upfront, to provide value to the community. That is the first thing. Once you see that happening, the community grows organically. And the best part about being able to build community, again, from what we've seen is, everybody in the community adds their own life to the product because they share it, they refer it. So they bring their own personality or, I would literally say they infuse life into the product as you build it. But what has worked really well for us is to build it very authentically without expecting revenue or reward from the community. And that has worked. So almost zero attrition from community and very, very active community base. I remember we did events where we just invited people and people came and pitched at events for us like they were part of the founding team. That is the level of commitment we see when you build it with authentic an authentic approach.
It's a real network effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Muskaan?
So I think in our case at State Plate, one interesting angle that we figured out was already, because we sell to products from different parts of the country, technically we already have like Bengali people are purchasing food from Bengal and Marathi people are purchasing from Maharashtra. So there's already, we at one point started trying to create this this sort of division like that, and having communities within State Plate who are, let's say, Bengali community, Maharashtrian community, the Kannadiga community, because we thought it's very interesting because that whole discussion that they have around food, but also like talking to each other about their challenges of living away from their hometowns and connecting on festivals, like, and this is already a thing, like there's so many Bengali associations in Bangalore, and they do Durga Puja together, and they have certain religious festivals that they follow. So I think we haven't capitalized on that as much as we'd like to, but that's something that we've been trying to do through our WhatsApp community, through our email community. We also try to segment users like that and try to give them very targeted content which resonates with where they are from, so that it really like hits home in some way. So I think for us, that's why community is important. We're trying to build along those lines.
And I think bonding over food is a primal instinct for humans in general. So I'm sure like that also works really well for you.
Yeah. And it's both positive and negative. So if we pronounce something wrong, the entire, like, let's say we pronounce a Maharashtrian dish, for example, Bhakarwadi, once we spelt it with an H, Bhakarwadi. And they were like, our thing was filled with like 50 comments ki Bhakarwadi mein H nahi hota hai, A hota hai. That's the correct way to spell it. So that's how you should do it. So I think there's already that feeling of belonging, because that's what the kind of brand that we are building. Right. So I think it's interesting, and but yeah, there's a lot more that we can still do to capitalize on that aspect.
Right. So just maybe a quick pointer from you as well.
Yeah, no, I would say that I don't think we are sort of building a community as yet, because right now, obviously, as a brand, the large part of the focus relies on new customer acquisition, which could be right and wrong in its own way. But I think the way we would like to do it, and we're in some ways doing it, would be sort of a very dedicated channel on doing things that go beyond just selling the product to the consumer, right? What can my product relate to that the consumer can actually do, which does not involve them actually buying the product? And I think that's the only way for us to essentially build the community.
Absolutely. I hope that answers your question. And I think all of them. Yeah, sure, please.
Actually, one thing.
Putting it to people facing, right?
One thing that also has really helped us, I thought it's an important one that has worked really well, is when you start co-building with the community, that works really well for stickiness. So we ask lot of feedback, and we ask them, should we do this, or should we do this, or should we do this? Because the community is people who are genuinely engaged or care about your product. So co-building with the community has at least reaped a lot of benefit for us.
Absolutely. I think we're a little short of time, so I'm sure all of them are going to be available down on the stage. So please just wait for them to come down, and you all can ask your questions. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Thank you.
WebEngage. Retention simplified.